Well, hey, everybody, this is Robert, and welcome to another episode of Outbreak News TV. And today I want to pick up on a story about a month ago where the CDC was reporting 3 cases of the very dangerous bacterial disease, melioidosis, from 3 different states. And the unusual thing about this was these were all people with no travel history to an endemic area, right? None of them went to Thailand. None of them went to Northern Australia. So, so what came up this morning in my news feed was a CDC Health Alert Network reporting of a 4th case of a non-travel related melioidosis case. So let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick. And it says new case identified, non-travel associated Burkholderia pseudomallei infection in 4 patients. Now Georgia is the 4th. We've seen new cases in Kansas, Minnesota, and Texas this year. So the Georgia Department of Health, with the assistance of the CDC, is investigating a fatal case of Burkholderia pseudomallei, also known as melioidosis. This was identified in late July 2021. Based on genomic analysis, this case in Georgia closely matches the 3 cases previously identified in Kansas, Minnesota, and Texas this year, indicating they all most likely share a common source of exposure, which is still unknown. We say the 4 cases so far include both children and adults. 2 cases are female, 2 cases are male. The first case, which was fatal, was identified in March of this year in Kansas. The second and third cases were identified in May in Minnesota and Texas, and they were hospitalized for quite a long time. The antibiotic treatment is not a short stint. It takes quite a bit of time. And they were finally discharged to transitional care facilities. It's a very serious bacterial infection we're dealing with here. This most recent case in Georgia died in the hospital, and it was identified post-mortem late last month. None of the cases had a history of traveling outside the continental United States. The symptoms were varied and nonspecific and may include pneumonia, abscess formation, and blood infections. And because of the nonspecific symptoms, melioidosis can initially be mistaken for other diseases like TB. And clearly this is a problem because if you don't know the right organism, they're not going to be able to do the right antibiotic regimen. And also there's issues with the bacteria, Burkholderia pseudomallei, and some of the automated bacteriology identification systems in clinical labs sometimes struggle with identifying this particular organism, and it gets misidentified. A little bit of background: the initial presentation for the 4 recently identified melioidosis cases range from cough and shortness of breath to weakness, fatigue, nausea, vomiting, fever, and rash on the trunk, abdomen, and face. 2 of the cases were fatal, as we mentioned, and they had several risk factors, which included COPD and cirrhosis. The other 2 cases had no known risk factors for melioidosis. Again, the analysis of the strains shows some kind of a common source. CDC is saying maybe imported product or animal, but at this point, they still don't have a definitive answer for that. This is a very dangerous organism, as I said. This is a tier 1 select agent. It's up there, right? It's up there with anthrax and some of those other really dangerous organisms that can infect both animals and humans. Most cases in the U.S. occur in people returning from a country where the disease is endemic, and that's not the situation with these 4 cases. So what I want to do next is I want to go ahead and just give you a brief history and and then we'll take a little closer look at the history of melioidosis. Most people probably don't know much about it, so I thought it was a little interesting, so I wanted to go ahead and share. And this is from a um, article from Clinical Microbiology Reviews from 2020. And a little background in history. The pathologist Alfred Whitmore and his assistant C.S. Krishnaswamy first described melioidosis as a glanders-like disease among morphine addicts in Rangoon, Burma in 1911. They recognized a new organism that fulfilled Koch's postulates for the causation of disease. This bacterium, which could be isolated from autopsy specimens on peptone auger and potato slopes, could be distinguished from the organism causing glanders, which is another Burkholderia species, by its relatively rapid growth, its motility, and the lack of a Strauss reaction when it was injected into guinea pigs. Based on these characteristics, sufficiently peculiar to distinguish it from pathogenic bacteria previously known to us, they said. They correctly surmised that this new bacterium was closely related to the one that causes glanders, and this was only recently confirmed by molecular studies. A little bit about it. The name, melioidosis, the name of the disease, comes from the Greek melis, which means distemper of asses, and eidos, which means resemblance. And this name was given to it in 1932, the name of the disease. During the last century, this gram-negative environmental bacterium has been variously known, so its taxonomy has changed over and over the decades, starting out as Bacillus pseudomallei, all the way up to when I first started in microbiology, it was Pseudomonas pseudomallei, and since 1992, Burkholderia pseudomallei. In the latter half of the 20th century, melioidosis emerged as an infectious disease of major public health importance in Southeast Asia and Northern Australia. In Ubon Ratchathani, Thailand, the organism accounts for up to approximately 20% of community-acquired bacteremias. So that's huge for something this pathogenic, accounting for 1/5 of bacteremias, community-acquired bacteremias. It's enormous. At the Royal Darwin Hospital in Australia, it has been the most common cause of fatal community-acquired bacteremic pneumonia. So, very serious pathogen. We see a lot of cases in Thailand, in Northern Australia, and typically we only see it in the United States in travelers to endemic areas. So this is very unique, and very interested to see where the CDC is going to go with this. Hopefully they do find a common source of infection reasonably soon, because as we see right here, we had 4 cases and 2 of them ended up being fatal. So it's big stuff, very serious pathogen. All right, well, that's all I got for you. I just wanted to throw this quick one out there. Melioidosis fatality in the state of Georgia. All right. If you like the show, go ahead and please subscribe, like the video, comment below, share it with your friends, and keep in mind, I'm going to start doing live streams pretty soon on YouTube and Facebook Live. I may be scheduling them as soon as tomorrow, so keep your eyes open for that. And I'll see you next time.